When the cloaked man broke my spine, I heard an ancient Techo 6.5 affection Naya's P. OV. Ocean's intense gaze followed me as I approached the tables with him. The elite team, including the betas, had claimed the table nearest to the food, while the sparring groups sat separately despite entering together. I found myself missing Ocean's protective presence, even though he still stood beside me. "It'll be right there," Ocean said, gesturing towards his group. His reserved demeanor seemed to crack as he added, "It'll give you some moment to catch up." His hands twitched, and he aggressively shoved them into his pockets. We walked up to the table together, in sync, feeling self-conscious. I scooted closer to him, every onus staring. I whispered, trying to hide from the prying eyes, "They know I found my mate." Ocean replied, his voice low and intense. I stopped in my tracks, dumbfounded at his confession. "I delayed for 2 days. I was away for nearly 6 days, including traveling. That's nearly a week, so I needed to give my enforcers and Steven a reason for that." His voice was soft and hoarse, a rare moment of vulnerability from my usually reserved mate. I began, but was cut off by Levy as friendly intervention. "Come, honey. I'll show you around," Livia said, linking her arm through mine and guiding me towards the stairs at the far end. I glanced back to see Ocean's intense gaze still fixed on me, unwavering until I descended the stairs by the kitchen near the back entrance. A fleeting image flashed through my mind, a younger Ocean, reminiscent of the pictures in his house but with shorter hair, standing among lockers in what seemed like a school setting. Livia steadied me as we reached the bottom, introducing me to Octavia, the delightful overseer of the refuge. With her dark blue eyes, long strawberry blonde hair, and energetic smile, Octavia exuded warmth. She mentioned that Lion, her husband, was upstairs with Ocean. Octavia spoke proudly of her 2 sons, one training to be an enforcer, the other gifted in art. As we explored, I understood why we had bypassed the first floor. It was lined with comfortable cots and blankets, about 30 in total, mostly single with a few doubles. Only 2 were occupied. At the far end, a row of partitions stood ready for use, some already providing privacy for the beds behind them. If wolves from other packs somehow ended up here, they had a place to stay until their pack's security came to guard them back home. The ones that occupied beds were chased by hunters from the city. They were from Central Hemisphere who came on a holiday. It would be a while till they returned home, but according to Octavia, Ocean had already contacted their alpha and they were waiting for the tickets. I was amazed by the dynamics of the community. Livia escorted me back up the stairs because she had an emergency in the kitchen. She hugged me quickly before putting on her kitchen net on her head. Ocean immediately straightened his back, motioning for me to sit down next to him. 2 wide wooden beams were squished together to create the bench. The tables were similar but more beams. The cafeteria was buzzing with laughter and conversations when I came back upstairs. "Do you want something to drink?" he asked immediately. Instead of waiting for my answer, he looked at the man sitting opposite to him. In a semi-second he was on his feet. He had olive skin, with hazel brown eyes. Chestnut hair bounced every time he moved. The sides were shorter than the top, which were swooped back. Another enforcer sat opposite me. His light brown eyes stood out like highlights against his chocolate brown skin. His hair was so short he nearly looked bald. He watched me with dubiously. Feeling uncomfortable, I turned towards Ocean. He, on the other hand, glared at the guy. Invisible steams were coming out of his ears. I looked back to find him looking down this time. I hated not knowing what was going on. "What?" I kept averting my gaze from Ocean to him until one of them spoke up. "I apologize. You just reminded me of someone." He finally looked up. "Emma, Jay. Nice to meet you properly." He extended his hand for me to shake. "Emma Levi." That name belonged to the man who brought me my drink and topped the ones that were already on the table. "Nice to meet you both. Under sane circumstances." I averted my eyes. They were there yesterday, saw how Ocean treated me. It was awkward for a moment till Ocean rested his hand on my back. It was the support I needed, and I was grateful for that. I didn't notice Aaron was sitting next to me as well, with Macy on the other side. I apologized to him for putting Macy's life in danger. I respected that he was honest with me. He was mad at first, but he calmed down when Macy told him I nearly took a bullet for her. I'm guessing she over-exaggerated. He knew it wasn't my fault because the Hunter Schulten had been inside the walls in the first place. The trackers found the place. The human used a rowing boat to cross the lake. It was too foggy to see, so the cameras didn't pick anything up. We weren't that far from the lake, unfortunately. The lake doesn't have walls around it. Obviously, and Ocean didn't want to close his people away from freedom like that. Around 1 o'clock a line started to form. Apparently, the Alpha and his team could cut into the line. Ocean told me while we waited in the line that they came in and within 10 to 15 minutes they would be out. Back to work. So, the people didn't mind. Also, elders in higher ranks were treated with privileges. It was old-fashioned, but the members didn't seem to have a problem with it. I felt like I was back in high school again. Ladies in hairnets and aprons asked what you wanted, and they served you in a tray with different compartments. Considering the fact majority of the pack never left this vicinity, so I doubted they'd know the similarities. Macy knew exactly what I was thinking about. She pulled a face to go with my arbitrary thoughts, but I didn't react. I didn't want to offend Ocean. We were brought up differently. I've been to many packs that didn't share same customs as us. I didn't judge. I had to embrace the new system. So tell me everything I need to know. Everyone around us resumed their own conversation the minute we sat down. I tried to ignore the curious gazes. What? Ocean looked startled. His fork stopped midway to his mouth. You know, the rules and about the different sectors. He looked relieved when I explained. What did you think I was talking about? I don't know. He put his mashed potato down with a sigh. I know I've been busy, but I definitely should have spoken to you about the customs before yesterday. Ask me anything you want to know. How did you come up with the pack house idea? He opted for steaks and potatoes. He come out my Thai ad. Whereas I went for the bacon, mac and cheese, and some fried chicken on the side with coleslaw. This food was 1,000,000 times better than school. I finally understood why people laid here. We always had a pack house. Usually it was always where the Alpha lived. Back in the day, but my grandfather decided to build a place in this clearing, and we've expanded since then. He carried on eating, waiting for more question. What's the purpose? I did the same. Taking a sip of his drink, he replied. Alphas were the provider. Always took care of his pack. So people came to them for help. Like kings and queens in the olden days. Our heritage and history was different than the humans. They loved turning our ancestors into mythological beasts. Yes, but things changed, so my grandfather decided to build a separate house, especially with so many hunters. I didn't necessarily see the point of building an extra giant house to people who already has houses around here, but it was a place to socialize. I could see by every honest interaction. Plus, we use the upstairs as a school for kids. I'll show you before we go, he added upon seeing a subsystem's expression on my face. Oh, I dragged out the OS. I straightened my back to see the row of teenagers at the very back. What age do they start? When I looked back at Ocean, he had a tiny smile on his face that he was trying to suppress, same as human kids. Only when we grow older we move on to practical education depending on what you want to contribute to the pack. They do rotations from workshop to here into security or enforcement, whatever you name it. They start that at 16 and by 18 they go into what they enjoy the most. But if at some point you want to change, at least you got the basic skills from training years. So not final exams and stuff are university. I knew the answer to that. No, they grew up hunters attacking their homes, killing their family members so no one feels the need to join the human world. He appeared somewhat sad from that particular thought. Of course, his parents were murdered by hunters. I put my hand on his thigh in a comforting manner. You're an amazing alpha. The things you built, the laws you made, The freedom you give to your people and the things you do to keep them safe. It's quite remarkable. His eyes met mine, lips parted in awe. He covered my hand with his before gulping, clearing his throat. He said thank you. He truly was an amazing alpha. He tried to give as much freedom he could to his people without putting them in harm's way. I think that's why he seemed more attractive to me. My body was attuned to his every movement. Tingles were shooting through my body, and I knew exactly what was happening. I was turned on in a room filled with werewolves with heightened sense of smell. So the training ground. How does that work? I kept eating, trying to distract myself. Again, you get a choice. You join at 18 and you train in hand-to-hand combat and guns. Even if you're not working in that area, we still encourage our members, male or female, to know how to shoot and carry a gun at all times. Maybe it was the right moment to ask him about mine. We went there today. I tried to ease it in. How did you like it? He spoke with his mouth full. It looks so high-tech. It's unreal. I should learn to write. There. Yes, it'll teach you. He took a big swig of orange juice. Thank you. Also, I want get in the gym. Learn how to fight. I definitely downplayed my experience. Sure. He had a knowing smirk on his face when he said that. A sort of a smirk one gives when he is secret that others didn't. I wondered if my dad or Macy told him about my 3 stripes black belt. You know the cots downstairs, why don't you just build more houses? I wondered that when I went downstairs. I'm sure people needed their privacy. A lot of money. It's not just housing. It's plumbing. Electricity and more resources are needed. Also, it's rare for someone to end up there and say it's only temporary. He made perfect sense. He and his team finished quickly, before everyone else. The line was still going. My heart picked up knowing he was leaving it. We finally were able to talk in neutral ground. He was avoiding me or I was jet-legged. To my surprise, he told his team to go. That he and Aaron would meet them later. He waited until I finished, which I did very quickly. Then he took me around towards the back of the hall. It was a huge space, but I did notice the row of elderly men and women. Their benches had backs and the seats were lined with cushions. His hand found its way to the small of my back again, guiding me past the thorns of people. I had a hard to trying to keep my smile at bay when I heard Dogata say yes with a girl, like they had never seen him a girl before. I liked that idea. When we finally reached the back table, he introduced me to the elders. They were Ocean's grandfather's friends. They were being served by a young lady. She had medium-length brown hair and light brown eyes. She bowed her head at Ocean. A lot of people did that when he walked past. While we were speaking to them, I could feel her eyes on me. She would look away quickly when I moved. She had a crush on Ocean. Who wouldn't? He unbelievably handsome. As long the feelings weren't mutual, I could live with that. An alpha must think rationally. My dad's voice floated through when I needed the most. I didn't raise any concerns about it when we headed outside with Macy and Aaron. Are you coming here for dinner? I wondered because I wanted to do something for him. Show my appreciation for his kindness. Well, he was an ass yesterday, but HES learning. Yes, of course. They will drop off the food, so we'll be there. He looked at his watch and I knew it was time. Okay. It'll be up this time. We stood there awkwardly contemplating on whether to hug or kiss. Instead, I just told him to go. He looked conflicted. After a couple of deep breaths, he engulfed me in a soft hug and planted a kiss on my forehead before I left with Aaron. I was stunned by his public display of affection. They jumped down from the balcony and landed right in front of the first floor's main gate. I didn't know why they needed to do that when there was a perfectly fine ramp right next to us. Before disappearing into the snow-covered trees, he looked back and then he was gone. I went back inside to finally dwindle down. The girl was watching from the kitchen window next to the ramp. I didn't her eyes on my mate. Where was her mate? Until Ocean tells me there's nothing between them. I wouldn't be alright. I planned on asking him at dinner. I had an idea. I found Livia sitting with Steven. Livia, I need a small favor. 7 talk Naya's P. OV you cooked for me. I wanted to do something nice for you. Livia was ecstatic to hear when I asked her for some groceries to be sent over instead of cooked meal. I made 6 chicken parmesan, spaghetti with spicy tomato sauce and lots of garlic bread. According to her, Ocean could eat enough for 3 people, so I made extra. I was told he usually got home around 8, so I made sure everything was ready. This is so stupid. Look at me being a perfect little mate waiting on our man. And now I'm talking to myself. He, however, was right on time. His eyes roamed over the table full with food. I used the actual dining table near end of the window instead of the wooden island. We usually ate there. I couldn't find any candles, so I used the overhead lights. Unfortunately, they were too bright and not at all romantic. It was better that way. We've only known each other for a week and we're destined to be together for the rest of our lives. So we had all the time for romance. I just wanted to get to know him. Either move for a generous amount of time. Oh goddess, you don't like it. Livia didn't mention anything about Ocean disliking food that is not from the pack house. No. He shook his head from side to side. It's just, since my parents died, I really haven't had a home-cooked meal. He paused before widening his eyes. Not that Livia's cooking isn't amazing, nor that they aren't like my family. I smiled, liking the relaxed side of him. I'll wait for you. I picked up the hot dishes, placed them back in the warm oven. What did you make? His feet were bare. Mud smeared his clothes. He must have had to shift at some point. After I recited the meal to him, he seemed elated. I heard the shower running soon after. I wanted to change into a dolly dress, but I opted for leggings and a long cream-colored sweater dress. It was exceedingly cold outside. Even I felt the chill in the air. The fact that we were more than just civil and making some progress from where he didn't even want to bring me here was a blessing. I was giddy with excitement when I heard footsteps stomping down the stairs. I took out the food from the oven and set back on the table. Ocean came in with black cargo pants and a gray sweater. I'll do it. He pulled out my chair like a gentleman. There's 6. Are we having people over? Sounding disappointed, he served me first. Nope. I saw you eat 4 for people this afternoon, so have at it. He looked away from me, but I saw the smile on his face before he did. Clearing his throat, he carried on. So how was work? I've heard my mother ask the question to my father nearly every night. They had a successful marriage or mating, so why not try it out? It was good. He paused, thinking something over. After he served himself, he sat down before continuing. We found the boat. It kind of floated away, but we finally found. There were other scents that we can trace back to the human civilization, but there's no point of putting more guards in danger. He sounded heartbroken. His people were dying, and the only crime they committed was being born with supernatural powers. The police? What can they do? I wondered. We contacted them. We have a right to have guns, and when they are shooting at us, we can protect ourselves. The mayor of Darkwood is a human who thinks we are like guns-bearing religious cult, but can't deny our rights. Especially after what happened to my parents. He sounded angry now. Anyways, we contacted the authority, and they will deal with it now. He was trespassing, so hopefully they won't put as much pressure on you guys. I despised myself for judging these people, for thinking they were old-fashioned. They just wanted to live a simple life. I felt no remorse for the humans. They were born from us. No matter how hard they tried to remove our existence from their history, we never forgot. We were always taught about our heritage. Are you okay? I asked softly. He seemed deep in his thoughts. No one got hurt this time, so there's no point in alarming the members. He was going for seconds. Also, this is amazing. You really cooked, yes. I pretended to take offense to his question, but the smile on my face countered my mock outburst. I can cook. I thought city princesses didn't want to cook. Okay. What is this city princess thing? Is this what you guys call us? That was the second time I heard the phrase in one day, yes. It's just always thought of pack that live in cities as conceited. He spoke honestly. I respected that. Some can be. We are so wrapped up in the human desires that we forget our lineage sometimes. It's true. I loved all the temporary satisfactions of the world. It took me away from reality. Do you think I'm conceited? No, but I think you have issues with rules. He finally brought up the issue from previous day. I don't have issues with rule. This outburst was very real. All alphas have issues with others' rules. Oh, he was right. It rubbed me the wrong way when people told me what to. Then I found a loophole. I technically didn't know the rules. He smirked at my remark, then sighed with a shake of his head. He knew I would find a way around it. We made small talks throughout dinner. He everything but made sure I had enough before, and I was grateful that he enjoyed it. We finally got to know a little bit about each other. He worked from morning to night and loved food. That was a given. The house that we were currently living in was originally his parents'. He used to live in the quarters with his elite team when he was training there for. When his parents were attacked, he washed there to save them. I still wasn't 100% sure how he got his wounds. We didn't expand much on the topic, but I was humbled that he even mentioned it. He was letting me in. I told him about my university degree. He was surprised by my business background and threw out a nonchalant remark about how I should speak Dorian. He was in charge of import-export business, hence he usually made business deal with humans. Considering I was brought up with humans, I had much more experience with their tactics. It was a huge responsibility, but I doubted that it was any different than what I did for my father. After loading up the dishwasher, we found ourselves on the sofa within the lounge. He turned off all the overhead lights and allowed the lamps to illuminate certain parts of the room. It was romantic. Only item missing was some wine. We spoke comfortably for a few more minutes. I found out he was 25 and his birthday was in June. I told him I just turned 22 in November. I wanted to ask him personal questions, but keeping it light and superficial was the right decision due to our premature relationship. Can I ask you something? I needed to put my mind at ease about the girl from the pack house. Sure. He made himself comfortable by leaning back against the backrest. His hand rested on his tight stomach, making me chuckle lightly. Happy that he was sated. The girl at the pack house. Should I be worried? He thought about it first before reacting. A true trait of an alpha. Think before speaking. Don't be rash. The frown on his face disappeared when he figured out what I was insinuating at. He took a deep breath. First, nothing's ever happened between us. We hardly spoke, let alone what you're thinking. He'll never do that to you. The vehemence in his voice sent chills down my spine. Not because I feared him. I was overwhelmed by how much it affected him when I thought about him like that. It was forbidden to fornicate with anyone who lost a mate, and especially with humans. So what's the story? I asked after he calmed down. She was like the people you saw at Sanctuary run by Octavia. Unfortunately, her whole family was obliterated 3 or 4 years ago just behind the mountains. They were actually from Central, a modern pack, and they were traveling. They got caught up with the hunters when they touched silver cutlery in a hotel downtown. Someone told someone and word spread. They ran into the woods and we heard the gunfire, so we fired back. She barely survived. He sighed. It was me who took care of her, but when she regained consciousness, I was there to question her, and I guess she ended having a crush on me. Doesn't she want her own mate? And leave mine alone. She's never been outside of these gates since then. I rolled my eyes, but deep down I understood her fears. We sat there in silence for a long time. Snow started to float down heavily and started to stack up again. Whenever it snowed, a red hue hung in the air. I didn't know why, but it brought an unexpected lightness to the dark. It was captivating. Did you? He cleared his throat. No, I didn't move my eyes away from the large checker window. Wooden panes framed in grids with double glasses in each square. Do you like it here? The doubt in his voice surprised me. Of course I do. Why would you ask that? Perplexity clouded my mind. It's not a mansion, is it? The type of place you grew up in. I moved closer to him. My knee touched his thigh. Hand rested on his shoulder. You're my mate. My stomach flipped. I want to be here. With you. We stared at each other for eternity. Slowly my hand moved to his semi-damp hair. I brushed the hairs away that fell to his mid-ear. I didn't know if this was his normal hairstyle or if he needed a haircut, but I liked the length. His hair was soft, but it wasn't rough either. They slipped through my fingers as my nails grazed the roots, softly making his eyelids drop. He must have been bone tired if he was this drowsy by 930. I repeated the actions all over his hair, and it didn't take him long to doze off. This time it was him who fell asleep on the sofa. No way in hell I would be able to carry him upstairs. I mentally laughed at myself at the image of such absurdness. So I spread a thick quilt I found in the drawers under the TV. I was buzzing with excitement when I went to bed that night. Our relationship was finally looking up. My small smile died when I remembered all the crazy hallucinations that had taken over my life. 2 into days. If it happened again, I was going to have to tell someone. My heart dried at the thought of him not wanting me after finding out that I was a sane person. 7. 5 decision Naya's POV. A month flew by within a blink of an eye. I wished Toshin and I made some progress in our relationship. No matter how small it was, but that was the case. Some days I felt that he was avoiding me. He'd come home to find me asleep on the sofa and carry me up to my bed. Some nights he'd be early and we'll have dinner together. But lately he's been gone a lot. However, that wasn't my primary concern. My hallucinations were getting worse. Sometimes I was seeing things 2 or 3 times a day. I was able to speak to my mother about it. No way in hell I was going to tell her it was happening to me, but we spoke for over an hour about mental illness. She made me laugh when she hesitantly asked me if there was a problem with Ocean. It was me who had the problem, but I shied away from the truth. Natural wolves were vulnerable to any kind of diseases just like humans. Supernatural creatures like us and others didn't fit into the natural category, therefore we were immune to regular diseases. Mental illness, however, was well documented among our ancestors, so unfortunately she didn't tell me much about it. However, I told Macy about what was happening to me. We spent too much time together for her not to notice. At first she acted like nothing happened, but after a couple of consecutive days she was deeply Finally, she asked 2 weeks ago. Explaining to her what I saw presided as a challenging experience, but the worst one ever occurred one afternoon with Joshua there to witness it. Rocky mountains surrounded us with yellow and green grass beneath our feet. I felt parched. Someone was holding my hand. Turning, I found Ocean looking at me with haunted eyes, chapped lips and blistered skin. His voice was broken when he spoke. Naya, we must rest. His voice was rich and dry. He pointed towards the shade created by the mountain. Wait until nightfall. We can change and run and they won't be able to follow us. He spoke in a different language, but I understood it perfectly. Orion, we must drink. I don't know for how long we'd be able to go on. I spoke his language. It rolled out of my tongue. I leaned into him, feeling scared and exhausted. My limbs were ready to give out. We sat down with our backs against the giant stony rock. He was clothed in garment that wrapped around our body. I had a long one-piece covering me from neck down to toe. The view before us stretched out into vast expanse of land. Some were bone dry and some were working fields with donkeys. We were on higher ground because it gave us an advantage to spot any hunters. We had no water or food, but the rest helped us. It's been months since we've been on the run, living off waste foods and water left out of animals. The thought brought tears to my eyes. I rested my head against his shoulder. I'm so sorry, he choked out. It wasn't his fault and neither was it mine. Wiping the tears away from my face, I stood with a new, found determination from the spirits. I dragged him up with me. An arrow went straight through my abdomen. I tried to push him away, but he shielded me with his body. Another tore through him and dug itself into me. He jerked with every hit. Tears fell from his eyes and my heart burned, but not from the silver in my body. He held me in his arms, took the hit when we fell to the ground. Our senses deteriorated from the lack of food and water. Even though the hunters were far away, we should have been able to pick it up. He took the brunt of the fall when our bodies collided with the ground. He still took care of me, even in death. Blood poured out of his mouth. Tears slid over the bridge of his nose. I love you. Blood coughed out of my mouth. Or silver penetrated us, but I felt nothing. Orion tried to smile. Blood marred his lips. I love, he coughed. I felt his agony. My heart squeezed because he was in pain. I put my hand on his bearded face, willing for the hurt to leave his body. I love you. The life slid from his eyes with his last whispered words. I ached from head to toe, withering in pain. I wanted to die. The spirits had blessed me with a wonderful mate only to steal him away from me this brutally. I screamed, but a hand covered my mouth. Naya, it's me, for God's sake. Macy's hot breath blasted in my ear. Is she okay now? It was Joshua now, whose hand had been resting my head on. I think so. Wait. She sounded afraid. You can't tell anyone about this. Okay. Promise me. I opened my eyes. The thick roots of a tree obscured my line of sight. I promise. She shouted at him, heaving. Her voice appeared tight. I promise. He sounded uncertain. I choked out when the lingering pain left my body. I'd had dreams before where I was hurt, but when I woke up it was always gone. Only this time I was wide awake and still felt the fire that spread from the silver tips of the arrow. A soft moan escaped my mouth. Remembering Ocean's dead eyes forced a sob out in my throat. Help me get her up. So, they didn't got me home safely. No one spoke until I was comfortably tucked in on the sofa, under the same quilt that I once spread over Ocean weeks ago. I wished it smelled like him, but it smelled of me now. I wanted to shift into my wolf form because I felt safest in my fur skin. Macy linked Ocean, asking him to come home at my request. I needed to see his eyes. She told me that she accidentally projected to Aaron and Ocean when we were being shot at, but luckily she controlled her emotions this time. According to them, I was babbling incoherently. Unfortunately, I didn't understand the language I spoke in my hallucination, but I knew the translation. When I explained it to Macy, she seemed as dumbfounded as I did. I recognized Ocean's footsteps from miles away, relieved that my senses were intact. I didn't want to dump my problems onto him, but I had to before it grew out of control, and it happened in front of his eyes. He came bursting through the door wearing only shorts and a thin vest. I sat up, allowing my hair to brush against the seat, without giving me the time to get up. He kneeled before me. This was the closest we had ever come to each other within a month. He palmed my face immediately, and the concern on his face tugged at my heart. Are you okay? What happened? We were nearly at eye level. His tenderness brought tears to my eyes, alarming him. Aaron was there near the door looking shocked. Macy dragged Josh with her, pushing Aaron out in the process, and closed the door behind her. The dam broke when I looked into his wide eyes. I cried out, sobbing loudly as he took me in his arms. His desperate heart thumped against my cheek. He sat next to me on the sofa, draped my legs over his lap. He frantically ran his hands all over my body, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Please, tell me. If it's me, I apologize. Just stop crying. Please. He pleaded. An alpha never pleaded. It gave me hope that would be all right after I told him about me. But I was greedy for his touch, soaking it all in. It took some time for my dry heaving to stop, and when it did, I stood on shaky legs, moving away from him. I stared outside the window. The snow had disappeared long time ago. Sometimes it made an appearance, but only at night. Naya, please tell me what's wrong. You're freaking me out. He put his hand on my shoulder. I'm sick, I blurted out. There was no need to beat around the bushes. What? He seemed relieved but confused. The glass reflected him perfectly. I licked my dry lips before continuing. I'm seeing things. I tried to explain. I've been having these hallucinations, and today I saw you die. Ocean-eyed, don't know what to do. It's scaring me. A lump formed in my throat. We were in this dry land, with stony mountains and fields. Tears sprang to my eyes. I spoke to my mother vaguely. I didn't tell her it was me. I don't think she knows anything about mental illness in wolves. I faced him slowly. He stared at the ground with his hands fisted by his sides. At first it was vivid dreams about you and me. I thought of him as an artist. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes it just occurs out of the blue or when I'm most anxious. Today we were coming back from the lake and I just collapsed on the ground. Apparently, babbling incoherently. I rubbed my face with hands, sitting down on the armchair by the bookshelves next to the window. I don't know what to do. It's just getting worse. Sob broke out. I'm scared, Ocean. He visibly flinched when I said his name. He mechanically moved towards the sofa that I was on previously and sat down. He was in shock. I could tell by the way he was running his hand over his mouth constantly. I couldn't get a grip on my emotions. Too much had happened too fast. What should I do? I asked, getting up to move closer to him. I needed the comfort he provided minutes ago. Instead, he stood and stepped back. My stomach churned. I wanted to throw up. Why, Ocean? I reached out for him. Tears sprang from my eyes, and deep down I knew this was it. My worries came true. I hated crying, but I just couldn't stop. He was backing away from me like I was contagious. Ocean, I don't think it's contagious. I tried to explain. I've had this for a long time and no one around me got sick. I was utterly terrified. Maybe you should talk to the pack doctor and see what she says. I was stunned by his callousness. I plan to. He'll stay at the quarters for a while. He didn't dare to look at me. He looked past my head but never in my eyes. The hurt burned with fire. Anger blurred my vision. He was treating me like a diseased rodent. Are you fucking kidding me? I screamed. I told you I'm sick and this is how you treat me. What kind of mate are you? My fire touched him. A mate who is also an alpha and a whole pack who depends on him. His voice sounded strained. He appeared conflicted. My throat clogged up and I hated him in that moment. He was my mate and I was falling in love with him. His actions towards me felt like a sacred bond was being broken. Maybe you can speak to your mother about it. See what she says. Though my voice was steady. I'll figure it out myself. He hesitated. Go, I screamed at the top of my lungs. I used my alpha command, but it obviously didn't work on him, but I felt the power. He always chose his pack over me. A part of me understood and used to admire it. I wonder if you would have treated me this badly as I was a member of your pack, Ocean. My mouth quivered, making it difficult to speak properly, but I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of knowing that he broke me inside. He seemed restless, kept running a hand through his hair. A small glimmer of hope ignited deep in me, only to have him pour water all over it. He simply nodded and stalked out with anger vibrating his muscles off. My legs gave out under me. Knees hit the cold hardwood. I bit into the back of my fist, trying to keep the loud sobs at bay. What just happened? My mind was in shock. Everything happened so fast that emotions were being overloaded. I knew any decisions I made then would be rash and done, alpha-like. I knew. That's when I found myself in my room, clutching my phone with dear life, waiting for the bars to show up, and when it did, I dialed the number from memory. Everything seemed blurry and dizzy. My ribcage contracted forcefully, making it hard for me to breathe. Naya. Honey, Mom, I'm sick. Loud sobs reached her. It's me. Mom, I'm hallucinating. I was curled up in the middle of the bed. What? Hello? I heard the tears in her voice. I'm coming, okay? I'm going to G. He left, Mom. He thinks it's contagious, so he left. He doesn't want me near his pack. It was an overreaction from the pain. First, I was scared of going crazy. Second, I thought I had lost my mate. Third, he acted like I was diseased, and finally, being abandoned by the person who was supposed to love me for life was just too much. It hurt too much. No ill come. He doesn't want me here, but Cal didn't say it. My heart ached. Stomach roiled. Oh, the pain was great. My whole body ached. I didn't remember how our conversation ended. I was running on autopilot. The only thing I knew was that I had to go home. This was not my home, no matter how much I tried to make it mine. People were kind, but my mate hadn't let me near him since we had dinner together a month ago. I remembered when he didn't want to bring me here. How can a mate resist the spiritual connection? Why was he trying so hard? Did he know I was sick? Of course not. I fell asleep that night with the wind howling outside, beating against the house with vengeance. The storm resembled my emotions inside. Anger coiled my throat. The tears stopped somewhere during the dark evening. The sun that morning didn't end any type of rain for the night, but it wasn't raining. Neither was it snowing. The sky was simply angry. I felt Josh's presence outside, but didn't have the energy to leave my bed. When he brought me dinner later, I asked him to stay. He looked sympathetic when he saw me. Told me Macy wanted to come and stay, but I just wanted to be alone. I was afraid of myself. I didn't want to hurt anyone. What if something happened in my dreams that would cause dangerous physical reaction? He had a gun. He could stop me. I knew he had different techniques. He knew where to shoot to kill and where to shoot to subdue. He fell asleep with the TV on downstairs. The dull sounds of snoring and TV was welcoming against wind outside. I didn't dream that night. Darkness fully consumed me, floating in a heavenly void. That void gave me guidance, a sense of clearance I needed after the hectic day. I had a plan and was going to follow through. 8 Good by May SP. Parallel to Chapter 9 and 9.5. The dirt road was only wide enough for one car. The Tahoe jerked when we drove over a pothole. Bright sun peeked through the trees. Rays of straight light created a disco ball illusion. Throughout my month of stay, I realized only enforcers and leaders' houses had roads wide enough for cars. Other houses were hidden away for safety precautions. I watched the familiar trees disappear behind me. Only difference was that snow didn't taint its beauty. When we reached the gates, the security guard stopped Josh in his tracks. Alpha didn't notice us about anyone exiting the ground. He was covered in guns. I'd seen him around the pack house but didn't know his name. His eyes moved from Josh to me and then back to him. It's an emergency. That's why he sent Josh to take me. I tried to smile. It was an emergency, but Ocean had no knowledge of it. Okay. Hold tight till Link. You can do that, but we have to keep moving. My throat clogged again. Tears sprang to my eyes. I didn't want to see him, and I knew he would let stop me either from leaving. It's urgent. He seemed surprised by the tears. I knew we were breaking protocol, but I needed to leave. HES already cleared it. If he didn't, I wouldn't be driving her. Josh lied without blinking. HES actually passed the mountains. Other than that, he would have been here. The guard seemed skeptical. I'm not a part of your pack. How about I use the smaller gate to leave and I'll find my way to the airport? I started to open the door. Oh no. He looked scared. Here were to higher ranks telling him to do something, but he was following protocols. I knew HED tell Ocean, but I needed to go first. They reluctantly opened the door, making sure no one was outside. Josh accelerated out without wasting a breath. I looked back to find them closing the door as quickly as possible. My heart sank. Josh found me packing my bags in the morning when he brought up breakfast. He didn't seem surprised at all. Instead, he sighed, shaking his head, replacing cold and touched spaghetti with hot eggs and sausages. I didn't stop. Neither did I explain anything. Soon after, Macy appeared from nowhere. She screamed, threatened to tell Ocean until I told her exactly what he did. She cried for me and I felt hollow inside. There was no way I was going to cry. I was surprised to find Josh waiting for me downstairs of the car. I didn't ask from where he got the car. I was just grateful that he did. After hugging Macy goodbye, I told her I'd contact her after my MRI. My father had already arranged a private jet for me. It belonged to a human business partner of his, and he was kind enough to let my dad borrow it for an emergency. I asked him not to speak to Ocean when he finally got through to my phone that morning. Everything was set for me to go, and a doctor's appointment was waiting at my hometown. Ocean didn't even send his pack doctor for me. HES probably going to kill you. I didn't want to get Josh involved. He might be slightly crazy, but he had a good heart. I'm the best sniper. He can't kill me. Yet he smirked. Josh lost his father when he was 6. A sniper put a silver bullet in his forehead right in front of Josh. The poor boy was left to wander through the woods for 3 days until a guard found him covered in deers. He tried to find help, tried to be brave, but was lost due to his premature senses. His mother was devastated and hadn't improved ever since. His psyche as well, never recovered from the trauma. He was the youngest sniper ever to complete his training and quickly work his way up to the elite team. So, when it's your fight? I checked the time on my phone that read 123 and 2.5 hours. My dad spoke to his friend last night, and the plane left soon after. It's already here. I sighed. I don't want you to get out. I need you to go back ASAP. I can't have you getting into trouble. He huffed out in mockery. I'm not joking. I don't want you in trouble, I told him in a stone-cold voice. My elbow rested on the windowsill, chin on the back of my hand. It'll be fine. He had his handgun hidden somewhere. I heard Macy's dad got you an appointment, Hal. Macy's dad is a doctor in our city hospital. HES practically family. He set me up for an MRI. I explained. I've never seen anyone get possessed by a demon. I smiled. It was scary. He teased. If only it was that simple kid. I patted his arm. Even though he was only a couple of years younger than me, he still acted like a goofball sometimes. I understood why people had a problem with. They didn't understand how he could joke about death. His loyalty was to no one but himself, and that irritated his superiors. Why help me? I wondered. You don't judge me. I know there's something wrong with me, but you don't judge me when I tell you I kill someone. He was crazy. He felt emotions unlike, but he didn't have regrets when a human died from his hands. I didn't say anything because I agreed with him. I just patted his arm in comfort and carried on watching the walls end and the forest begin. I didn't give the human a second thought, even though I knew a life was taken. You're not a sociopath. If you were, you wouldn't help someone when there was nothing in it for you at the end. He crunched up his face before he nodded. Yeah. They are going to take my babies away from me. He pushed out his lips in a pout. His guns were his babies. I learned how to shoot, but he was a good teacher. He expected perfection by now, and I nearly punched him in the face once in frustration. He simmered down since then. Ocean gave me a couple of lessons, but he always had something else to do. I rolled my eyes at the thought of him. His face from previous day flashed before my eyes. My stomach clenched and throat ached. My priority was my health, not an uncaring mate. Suddenly the car jerked to an abrupt stop. 8.5 help May as P. OV parallel to chapter 9 and 9. 5. A dark shadowy figure appeared. From nowhere, in the middle of the road. Black cloak covered him from head to toe. He didn't look like a hunter, but Josh already had his gun out. My heart thumped in my chest. The windows were tinted and thicker than usual, making me wonder if it was bulletproof. I don't sense anyone else. He mumbled out loud. What's he doing? Leaning forward, I watched him raise his weapon, left hand. His palm faced us up. The car became airborne, smashed itself against a tree. My vision zapped from one end to another in a split second. The bones in my body cracked. How the hell did he do that? I felt such excruciating pain all over my body that it left me breathless. Moaning and groaning, I found Josh unconscious, slumped over steering wheel, crushed against a tree trunk. He had lacerations on his forehead. Blood seeped out from his arms and legs. Josh. My arm was stuck between his seat and mine. My chest burned from the impact. Inhaling became an obstacle course. Josh. I moved my other arm to free my wedged one eye. I screamed when my bones reconstructed and snapped back to place. I gritted my teeth so hard that my face shook. The figure was moving closer, and I had to get him to safety. Damn it. I reached for the gun that awkwardly rested on the dashboard. Ignoring the protests from my body, I painfully twisted towards the broken window next to me. I shot at the figure standing just outside. My heart jumped at his proximity. I kept shooting, no matter how much the recoil hurt. The seatbelt burnt my skin at the base of my throat, but I pushed through, emptied the magazine into him. However, none of the damn bullets hit him because his palm was creating some sort of an invisible barrier. The small bullets clanked when they hit the concrete floor. My confidence shattered when I heard the empty clicks of my trigger. Frustrated, I let out a loud roar. He ripped the door of its hinges without touching it. He had powers like I've never seen before. He definitely was a hunter. Supernatural beings weren't supposed to hurt each other. It was a forbidden rule since humans waged a war against us. We're supposed to be on the same side. I gritted out. I couldn't see his eyes. It was hidden underneath his hood, but the bottom of his face was still on display. A chilling, sadistic smile spread across his lip. Instead of saying anything, he used his hand this time to rip away my seatbelts. My stomach dipped. Even with a concussion, I knew he was extremely dangerous. Whatever he had planned for me, it was going to be utterly painful. His hand grasped my throat and lifted me out of the car without breaking a sweat. I fought back, kicked and clawed, tried to scratch him even with my ray, joined arm, but the damage to my whole body was extensive, therefore it was taking longer. I tried to shift into my wolf, but he just squeezed tighter, cutting off my air supply. He lifted me off the ground, putting pressure on my trachea. I was terrified. My vision started to blur. Lungs burned. Suddenly, my training kicked in, causing my body to move on autopilot. I used my semi-healed core strength to lift myself up and wrap my legs around his arm and twisted. I gripped his pinky finger and bent it backwards until I heard a satisfying crunch. Finally, he released me. I landed on my bruised hands and feet. He was immune. At least. I coughed, covering my sore throat with my hand, but I didn't have time to recover. A loud grunt emanated from his throat, and I knew whatever followed was going to be good. Therefore, I threw my body behind the wrecked Tahoe. Josh was still in there, but his focus was all on me. So I ran, drawing him away from the car and into the woods. I could feel the energy field vibrate whenever he had at me. I didn't have time to analyze the situation or figure out what kind of powers he had. All I knew that he was immune to my physical touch. Only problem was that there was no way he was going to let me anywhere near him. I kept ducking behind trees every time I felt the air around me. The force shook the trees to its core. Leaves drizzled down like rain, rustling against each other. The soft heat of the sun countered against the cool breeze that carried the leaves away. You can't hide from me. His voice boomed through the forest. I panted like a pathetic prey. My hands scraped against the bark of the tree. Blood smeared the uneven surface. I got a minute to catch my breath. My hair was in a high ponytail that shifted to its side. My rib cage ached profusely. Gulping, I bent forward, holding my sides, trying to gain my full strength. I had a splitting headache and my brain felt like it was being sloshed around in my skull. My mouth salivated and I wanted to puke. Gulping consistently, I tried to keep my senses open. He was still half a mile away. I knew I had the advantage of surprise. I ran and jumped back and forth between two trees until I reached the thickest branch to grab onto. Clamping my lips together, I tried to breathe the pain through my nose. My body shook involuntarily. The agony took my breath away, but I pushed through. No one was going to come to my rescue, and the only thing I could do is hurt the bastard enough so he can't follow me and take Josh back to the gates. The crouched-down position took a little pressure off my sternum, allowing the healing process to finish its job. I could perfectly see him, assess him thoroughly. When he moved his hands, the air aligned to it moved to, swirled around like tornado in slow motion. Then the object followed through. He was blessed by the air spirit, like we were by earth. I'd never seen anything like that in my life before. The black cloak hid everything but his height. He was tall. Who wears a damn cloak? My damaged mind kept swirling with questions. He was definitely after me, and not just any werewolf. He didn't pay Josh a second thought. My heart sank at the thought of him dying. He was like a brother to me, and I didn't want anything to happen to him. I felt sick. It was all my fault. If I was so rash, none of this would have happened. Fuck. He was inching closer and closer. I waited until he was directly beneath me. Then, I pounced. I landed on his shoulders with a large thump, dug my claws into his throat and pulled. Unfortunately, I was fast enough. He used his weird power, grabbed me by my arms and threw me across the trees into a small clearing. My back collided with a thick fallen trunk. I screamed in pain. My vision blurred. Black spots surrounded the edges. I tried to get up. Fucking bastard. Fight like a man. I was crawling on my hands and knees, scraping my skin against the pine cones, twigs, rocks, and dead leaves against the filth of the earth. Breathing became impossible. All the strength left my body. I physically cowed and picked myself up. My brain and body was battered like an animal. I was ashamed at my quick defeat, using the stump as a leverage I had to stand only to have the swirling, thick air knock me off my feet again. Son of a bitch. I felt myself floating through the air, felt the wind zoom past my face. Hair blew forward in disarray. I took a deep breath before I landed amongst fresh spring flowers. The forgotten flowers that no one picked up and marveled at its beauty. He was enjoying it. That bastard. I couldn't take it anymore. My body started to feel numb. He was draining my powers. I could feel my wolf spirit fighting to fix my human form. Wheezing noises escaped my lungs. One of my ribs on the right side broke again. Felt the sharp edge graze my lung every time I inhaled. I was so tired. I wanted to go to sleep. Just for a little while. No, don't you dare give up now. I'm coming. Hold on, baby. I'm coming. Ocean. Help me. Thy humeral's bloody laugh spat out of my mouth. I was hearing Ocean's voice now. Hope could be paralyzing, and I hoped that it was him. When no reply came, I used a different technique. Somebody please help me. I tried to tap into my pack's link, but I was a million miles away. No one replied. No matter how many times I repeated myself, the flare of hope simmered away. I agonized in pain alone. Time stopped as he inched forward. That sadistic bastard watched me wither in pain. I desperately wanted to wipe the stupid smirk off his face. I squirmed around on my back, tried to lift myself up, but didn't have the energy. How was he doing this? I gulped dry air. Every pore in my body ached. He stood a couple of feet away from my feet and just watched. Watched the tears form in my eyes and stream down my face. The more pain I was in, the happier he appeared. The world spiraled around me. Arms and legs felt limp. He stretched his arm forward and one by one, slowly closed his fingers into a fist. And pulled. I was being ripped in half. My spine broke forward. My eyes widened. Breath stopped. Back arched inwards, popping out the broken rib. The bones snapped and disgusting crunch reached my ears. The overwhelming amount of pain left me breathless. I couldn't breathe. I thrashed my arms against the ground trying to move, but I was locked in place. I didn't know what I did to deserve such pain. Time stilled for a while. It was like being stuck in a vacuum. The radial view of trees brought me some peace. Vibrations coursed deep through my body. He was draining my life away from me. Soft whimpers glided out of my open mouth. Echoes of my pathetic whimpers flowed across soundless forest. Nothingness surrounded me. The white, fluffy clouds sailed past the bright green trees, revealing the bright blue sky. Dust particles swiveled around the straight rays of sun. Soft air stirred the leaves from side to side. He let me go. Air forced itself from my lungs when my back finally hit the ground. My vision started to fade. Senses started to disappear. Numbness swept over me. Tears slid down my temples, into my thick black hair. I tried to fight him. I truly did. He had powers that exceeded my abilities. Powers unknown to supernatural kind. If only that bastard was man enough to fight with his fist. I was supposed to be an alpha. A quick defeat was shameful. Death would have been merciful. Naya. A pain voice faded across my mind. I blinked slowly, fighting to keep my eyes open, but I failed. Darkness consumed me.